I'm going to take a quick break from basketball because we got a lot of it here today on the show. And make sure you download the KDUSAM 1060 app so you can take us with you on the go. We'll get back into the basketball in about 15 minutes from now because it is very clear what the Suns decided to do yesterday. And I'll tell you in 15 minutes, and you can probably guess by the way I've been talking whether or not that I think this is the right decision. So that coming from me in about 15 minutes from now. But how would you like a 9-time Pro Bowler? How would you like a guy who played in the postseason this past year? How would you like a guy who was a defensive player of the year? How about a guy who has over 100 career sacks? How about a guy who this year had 2 sacks in the postseason game that he played in, 6 for the season? Guy that's an edge rusher. That sounds like the resume of somebody that would make a ton of sense for the Arizona Cardinals. Well, that player who was a Defensive Player of the Year winner in 2016, who has 107.5 career sacks, who's a 9-time Pro Bowler, who had 2 sacks in a postseason game this year, 6 sacks for the entire season, would be one Khalil Mack. And after the Chargers were bounced in the first round of the playoffs by the Houston Texans, Mack said after his 11th season in the NFL that he was going to take some time to mull over whether or not he wanted to return for a 12th season. He's 33 years old. Going to be an unrestricted free agent for the first time in his career. Well, after taking that time, he has decided, according to Adam Schefter of ESPN, that he is going to play in 2025. And we on this show have told you over and over and over again how important edge is for the Cardinals this offseason. And when a guy that has those types of credentials, who has that type of production, and he matches up with the position of need, it is very easy to start dreaming of what Khalil Mack might look like in an Arizona Cardinal uniform. Now, I'll throw a little cold water on this because Mack earlier this month said that if he did decide to continue playing, he thought his best chance of winning was in L.A. Did the first-round exit change that? Will the money change that? I don't know. But this guy had 6 sacks last season. Now, if you look at his stats over his career, he had 17 the year before. He had 8 in 2022. He had 6, 9, 8.5, 12.5 in his time with Chicago. So if you remember, spent the first 4 years of his career with the Raiders and was all over the place. 4, 15, 11, 10.5. Those are the sack numbers his first 4 years. The Raiders didn't want to pay him. Back and forth, trade him to Chicago. 12.5, 8.5, 9.6. The Bears thought this was the move that was going to put us over the top. This was the edge rusher that was going to take us to the next level. He put up some great numbers, some solid production numbers, but didn't take them over the top. Okay, now he goes to the Chargers, and in the last 3 years, combines for 31 sacks in 3 seasons. And had that big year in 2023 where he had 17 sacks, but only 6 this past year. So would you want Khalil Mack as a member of the Arizona Cardinals? Here is my warning to you all. Here is the thing that needs to be your North Star. We told you how big of a deal it was that the Arizona Diamondbacks signed Corbin Burnes. We told you what the Diamondbacks were getting in Corbin Burnes. You'll understand the comparison that I'm making here in a second. You sign into a 6-year, $210 million deal, the largest contract that the team has ever given out. And we told you, you're not getting a guy on the back 9 of his career. You're not getting a retread. You're not getting somebody who's mailing it in and just wants to be in the nice weather in Arizona. You are getting somebody in his prime. You are getting somebody that has multiple Cy Youngs potentially in his future. That's how good he is. He can put together Cy Young caliber seasons moving forward. This is not signing Madison Bumgarner. Signing Khalil Mack would be like signing Madison Bumgarner. It might work out. You might have a season or a season and a half where you go, okay, it's not bad. But overall, you're not getting what you think you're getting in Khalil Mack. And so for me, looking at the pass rush options that are going to be available, I'd like to go in a different direction. We talked yesterday about Josh Sweat. We've talked about Ojulari and Chase Young as potential options who we knew were going to become free agents this offseason. I would much rather play in that sandbox than sign a 33-year-old who's coming off only a 6-sack season. His consistency has been all over the place. I mean, think about it. Before the 17-sack year in 2023, he hadn't had a double-digit sack year since 2018. So are you getting double-digit sacks? Is that what you're getting? Because that's what you need. You need big-time production. You need a slam dunk home run. Now, if Khalil Mack is option 2 or option B as part of a pass rush group, and there's a bigger fish that gets brought in, and they also draft and develop somebody, I can get on board with that. But if Khalil Mack is going to be your home run swing, if Khalil Mack is going to be the guy that you are going to wrap your whole offseason around, I say, no thank you. I say that would be like the Diamondbacks signing Madison Bumgarner. Getting a guy at the latter stages of his career, hoping potentially that he can tap into the magic of his past. And that, more often than not, doesn't work out. The plan is simple. You swing for the big fish. You might not get a bite. You might not get a bite on the line, but you swing for the big fish. And then you go out and you sign a couple guys and you draft a guy or two and you build out a well-rounded group that is a mix of veterans who are still in their prime and young pass rushers that you hope you can develop into your Khalil Mack, that you hope you can develop into your Chris Jones, that you hope you can develop into your Max Crosby or Myles Garrett. That should be the path. Monty Ossenford has a pretty decent track record of drafting players, and the development process is the next step in that. So why not continue to take swings in the draft? So Khalil Mack, big name, got the credentials, 9-time Pro Bowler, 107.5 career sacks, former Defensive Player of the Year. He was a Defensive Player of the Year nearly a decade ago. Just like when the Diamondbacks signed Madison Bumgarner, he was a World Series and postseason hero a long time ago. He was multiple seasons removed from being the postseason hero. Don't do what teams in this state seemingly always do. They go for the big name. They go for the big splash. And they get the over the hill, the retread. And that's not to say that Khalil Mack wouldn't come here and be able to produce a similar type season that he had a year ago. But that's not what the Cardinals need. The Cardinals need big-time production. They need a 17-sack season. They need to have one of the elite pass rushers in the NFL. That's what their defense is missing. He got to Arizona, that being Madison Bumgarner, in 2020 and pitched his age 30, 31, 32, and part of his age 33 season with the Diamondbacks. Do you know the year? So remember, I'm telling you this. 2020 is when Bumgarner got to Arizona. Do you remember the year in which he won the NLCS MVP and the World Series MVP and was dominant? Went 4-1 with a 1.03 ERA in 7 games, including starting 6 of them when he was a World Series champion. Do you remember when that was? That was 2014. The Diamondbacks signed him 6 seasons later, thinking that they could get something similar to that. Don't look at Khalil Mack and expect him to be 17-sack Khalil Mack. Don't expect him to be double-digit sack Khalil Mack. Don't expect what the Diamondbacks expected when they got Madison Bumgarner. So this is a thanks but no thanks for me. Big name, has got the credentials, but doesn't fit the timeline. At least he doesn't fit the timeline as the top-tier option. He fits the timeline as part of a group. He fits the timeline as a complementary piece, but he does not fit the timeline as the top-tier big-time free agent signing. Now, we're going to do this all offseason long. Every pass rusher that is available, that has a name value, that has production, that has a resume, we are going to look at through the lens of, do they fit the Arizona Cardinals? And Khalil Mack making a declaration yesterday, at least according to reports, that he is coming back in 2025, of course, is going to put him on a short list. I'm telling you, I'm good. No, thank you. I don't need the Cardinals to have their version of Madison Bumgarner. I need them to find their Corbin Burns. That's what the Cardinals need to do at pass rush. Find their Corbin Burns, not their Madison Bumgarner. Khalil Mack would be the Madison Bumgarner. Who the Corbin Burns might be? Could be a Josh Sweat. Could be making a trade for somebody else. But it's not Khalil Mack.